I can't tell you how excited I am to review this figure. So this is the 1980s jumpsuit JLI Black Canary. And as many of you know, I'm a big fan of Justice League International, so much so that I have my array of mostly RB Customs Justice League International figures here in the background. And I'm getting closer to sort of completing this collection. There's a few figures that I'm going to ask RB Customs to make for me here in the near future that will hopefully complete kind of the most critical lineup of JLI. I won't be going too much into JLE, Justice League Europe, just yet, but I really, really loved getting kind of something I dreamed about as a kid, and that's a full lineup of the JLI figures. And so this is interesting. A lot of people do not like the jumpsuit costume. The fishnets were done away with. This was sort of post-crisis DC universe, and trying to get back Black Canary a more sort of modern look. But I'll tell you what, like JLI to me would not be complete without this figure and this particular look with Black Canary. I know that view is not shared by many, but for me, I do have the original Black Canary, which I'll show you in just a second to compare the satellite era Black Canary. But I really, really love this figure as well. So interesting too that, I'll show you the satellite era one as well. Perfectly matched in terms of height. These are both scaled off a Wonder Woman figure. And, both these are just magnificent figures. And it's interesting to me that Black Canary is, in terms of RB Customs figures, I only have a double of one character besides her, which is Batman. I have kind of a light blue Batman and a dark blue Batman, and then this is my second Black Canary figure. And while definitely not my favorite character, I really had to have this to go with my growing Justice League International collection. So let's go through this figure and look at all the amazing detail that Ron Bella was able to put together. So if I can zoom in a little bit, you can see a lot of the great texture here. So number one, again, this is built off a Wonder Woman figure. So look at all the detail. The hair is sculpted to sort of this perfect 80s Aquanet look, and she's been given a headband. And again, these things are sort of very difficult to create, whether it's through Sculpey or through some other means. Rowan Bella certainly does a lot of work to be able to get it there. The face has some unique features as well. So if you zoom in really closely, kind of has that turned up smirk a little bit. So what I've really appreciated about the figures that Rowan has made for me, even if you look at the background here while I show you some of the others, they all have a unique face look to them. And particularly the JLI figures, they have a bit of a snarky smirk or grin that really brings this era of the figure to life. So have to love that, and love that it gives it just that unique Black Canary look. And so you'll see here a couple other things that really jump out. Number one, I know this is a small detail, but look at the collar. That collar, that scarf around the neck, that sort of collar that jumps up. Boy, that had to be difficult to create. And then on top of that, just under the collar is sort of the Black Canary symbol that jumps out here, created through Sculpey or through some other means. That had to be really difficult to create. And it was. I actually asked Roan, if this was more difficult or if this ice figure was more difficult. And in my head, it just seemed like these two had, were probably his most difficult figures. I didn't ask him of these, which was his most difficult figure, but it just seemed like there was so much work going into these two that, one of them had to be more difficult. And I figured it was Black Canary. And he said, yeah, it was, because in particular, trying to get this symbol created on her chest is very difficult. But you'll see the arms have been redone. And there's so much texture here that's sort of perfectly, if you can zoom in, you can see all the texture, which is perfect for this sort of 80s jumpsuit. She has gloved hands. The cuffs here at the end have texture to them. Has the belt here that, the costume itself kind of drapes over perfectly. And you can see this again from the back. You can see she has the unique boots. And last time, I didn't ask RB Customs, I didn't ask Rowan Bell if he did this. But last time he took boots from another figure line, and was able to, cut off the legs and put on similar boots here. These look slightly different than the ones that were done for the original Black Canary, so I'm not sure what technique was used here. The one thing I didn't ask him about that I think is kind of interesting is he usually sort of shaves down the texture on sort of the shorts or the underwear of the figure here, and in this case he didn't. And I looked back at the designs and it looked like the Black Canary that I saw didn't have a lot of visible 80s underwear lines, but in particular this does. And I don't think that's a problem at all, actually. I just find it interesting that he left them because he usually removes those. So no problem at all here, though. That kind of gives you sort of the perfect sort of 80s. I'm guessing, I can't remember. I'm pretty old at this point, but probably women's underwear look from the 80s is well maintained here. So perfect. But overall, love the look of this figure. Love the texture. Very, very difficult to create, and he's done an excellent job. I even kind of love the hair, how it sort of perfectly lays flat in the back. And I can't remember for the life of me if that's how it was consistently rendered in the comic, but I do love that that's how a lot of 80s hair laid. It was just sort of that perfect flatness. And me being kind of a product of that era that sort of read comics up until sporadically up until 86 when The Dark Knight Returns came out, and then started reading a lot of back issues, catching up on Crisis. Was really excited when JLI came out and sort of saw this new wave of, not only more adult comics, but with JLI, something that could sort of make fun of itself and draw you in a different way. And so I love that this group gives me that all the way around. And so again, if you kind of look at this entire group, you'll see a lot of great RB Custom sculpts, hoping to get a Rocket Red from him one day. And again, Black Canary, she fits in so nicely. Got to get a version of Fire that isn't mine. I painted that one from Superpowered Customs, which is an awesome figure. I just painted horribly. And like I always joke, it looks more like Fred Armisen from Saturday Night Live than it does from Fire. And, we'll eventually get sort of a couple new versions of Martian Manhunter and Dr. Fate here in the back. So love this version from RB Customs. And again, if you're interested in figures from him, you can reach out to him. The link will be in the description. And feel free to comment on my post and or comment on the video and the post. And feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks.